What we're going to discuss today is we'll go through our introductions, and Councilman Mark Clayton will also address the crowd here. And then we're going to hand it over to Chief Acord and Officers Robinson and Officer Hicks so that they can speak to us about how to prevent crime and just give us some additional information on the recent crimes that have occurred in our neighborhoods. And then to end the meeting, we want to hand it over to our OLH Highlands Security Director. She wasn't able to be here, but Samaha is going to speak on her behalf today. So he'll give us an update on VIP, and then Scott from Lochwood will also speak on VIP for Lochwood. Did I say Lochwood twice? For OLH Highlands and Scott for Lochwood. And then at the very end, we'll have a Q&A session. We want to keep that to about 15 to 20 minutes. You can address the officers and or Mark Clayton. Yeah, so starts at 7, ends at 8. Thank you, guys.
Hello, I'm John Jones with the Lochwood Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to introduce for our guests, first of all, newly elected Councilman Mark Clayton is here. He's going to be speaking. We have the Chief of the Northeast Substation, Chief Acord, is here. We've got our neighborhood police officers, Katie Robinson and Officers Hicks, and several other officers with DPD. I'm sorry I don't know all of your names, but we really do appreciate you all attending and participating. Go ahead and turn it over to Councilman Clayton, if you're ready.
Good evening. Thank you guys for being here tonight. You know, one of the things I always say about East Dallas is, man, you get a problem, we all show up. So I'm so appreciative of you guys coming out. Also want to mention, he walked in kind of late, Adam McGee from City Councilman District 10 is in the back of the room. So, you know, our areas, yeah, you can clap for these guys. You know, one of the things I'm very appreciative about Adam is our districts, you know, come up against each other, and we realize that, you know, when you have the start of crime, it's start of crime for all areas. So we really, from a citywide, you know, side, we want to partner as much as we can to provide all the resources, you know, at a city level to make sure that Chief Acord has what he needs. Also, just very quickly, want to say thank you to Chief Acord for being here tonight. You know, one of the things that I've really talked about a lot that I'm so pleasantly surprised is his commitment and his staffs. I mean, but look at the number of officers he has on Monday night here. You know, I don't know what my expectations were going in for my relationship with Chief Acord, but he has blown them out of the park every time. And I think this is a perfect example because he understands that, you know, if he has Katie here and one other officer, you know, I don't think you see the commitment of the police force. But look at that. That's impressive. So I'm going to turn over the meeting to him, and I just wanted to make a point to say that and just how I'm so appreciative that you understand the needs of our folks and what they want and what they need. So thank you. And again, just lastly, just thank you guys for all being here. You know, one of the things, you know, as well as we have very strong volunteers and patrol organizations in East Dallas, probably some of the best in the city. And it's because of you guys and the commitment to the neighborhoods and the fact that you don't let the little problems linger, because you know if the little problems carry on, big problems come behind it. And so just the fact that you guys are so willing to be here, take time out of your evening, means everything. I'll hand it over to Chief Acord. Anything I can do from a city level, don't hesitate to email me, to call my office. We will do, I work for you, so whatever you need, we will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton. I'd also like to thank Barbara Arredondo for putting this meeting together for us so quickly and being involved, president of her neighborhood association, and very much for that. And Mr. Clayton, thank you for the kind words and being a very involved city council member. It's been a pleasure working with you and also Mr. Magoo so far. We'll end up doing great things together as time goes on. I would like to take an opportunity to kind of introduce some members of the staff at Northeast. And so if you'd please indulge me, first of all, I have Lieutenant Kenny Sile. Kenny, would you stand, please? Kenny is the lieutenant over our community engagement unit, which means the NPO officers, our crime response team officers, and our deployment guys. Go ahead. Also have Sergeant Keithrick Jones. Keithrick, where'd you go? Oh, there you are, Sergeant. Keithrick is the immediate supervisor in the same unit. And we also have from your third watch or evening shift, Sergeant Paul Morris from patrol over here. From our robbery unit downtown is Sergeant Salverino. I'm probably the oldest cop in the room. So, but you know I love you like a brother, okay? So, in addition to that, some of our NPO officers, and most of you probably already know, are going to be Katie Robinson and Mickey Hicks. I'd also like to mention, I'm looking for him, Daryl Wood. Daryl may be out front. He's the gentleman that you always see at the VIP table at all the meetings that we have. He is our volunteer VIP coordinator, works very, very closely with us and does an outstanding job in helping different communities put together the VIP program. And does a great job for us. And one other person I want to mention real quick is Kim Raz, is our crime analyst. Kim? She does an outstanding job in helping us all stay on top of the crime. It's something we look at day in and day out. So just to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to do a summary of the robberies that occurred here over the last several weeks, and we'll talk about some of the actions taken, the actions that we continue to take. I'll talk kind of specifically about the robberies themselves in terms of their arrest. Then we'll have Sergeant Salverino talk about the investigative perspective of all that. We'll talk a little bit about some crime stats. Also, Lieutenant Webb is here, and I forgot to introduce him. Eric is our lieutenant over the property crime division. He'll talk a little bit about property crimes and some of the things that they see there. And then we'll also talk about some, as a result of all these things that have occurred, I also see some opportunities for us to kind of pounce on and think about and rejuvenate some things, and I'll mention those briefly a little bit. And then I'll ask Senior Corporal Robinson to come up, kind of give you a brief overview of the Volunteers Patrol Program, so those of you who are not familiar with it will have a better understanding of it. And also, Senior Corporal Hicks will come up and he'll talk a bit about some safety tips, some home security surveys that we provide, and some other identity theft issues and things of that nature. So, if you will bear with me, I'll kind of get started into the summary of things. Okay, now I put this initial summary out, I believe it was about a week ago, Friday or Thursday, because I wanted to push information out to the community to start giving you guys an idea of what's been taking place out there. So a lot of this is going to be the same summary, but I still want to discuss it anyway in case some of you have missed it along the way. So several weeks ago, 4 to 5 weeks ago now, 6 robberies of individuals have occurred in the Lake Highlands area. 4 of those robberies occurred north and northwest highway, and 2 occurred south of Northwest Highway. The individuals that were robbed were either taking a walk, jogging, or bicycling. In each instance, the individual's cell phone was taken. The 4 robberies that occurred north and Northwest Highway occurred on Chesterton, Blanchshire twice, and on Overwood. All these robberies took place in the early morning hours between about 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. The 2 robberies that occurred south of Northwest Highway occurred between the hours of approximately 7 to 8 p.m. And those offenses occurred on Clearbrook and also on Brookhurst being the last one. Now, on the morning of August 4th, the last robbery to take place north of Northwest Highway, which had occurred on Overwood, 2 suspects were apprehended just after that robbery occurred. These suspects, Jaquavian Johnson, 17, and Christopher Bailey, 18, are believed to be responsible for all 4 of those robberies. One of them, I'm not sure which one it was, but one of them actually attended Lake Highlands Junior High, and both live in Mesquite. Regarding the robbery that occurred on Clearbrook, which was on this side of Northwest Highway, back on the 27th of July, the 2 suspects, Christopher Scott, 26, and also Tevin Ahir, 19, were arrested the next day for this offense. And I'm glad to be able to stand here before you and let you all know that all 4 of those suspects are still in jail. Now, as for the robberies that occurred on Brookhurst back on August the 5th, and it's been about 12 days now since any other robberies have occurred, the suspects have not been arrested. One of the suspects is described as a black male in his 20s, about 6'3", a slender build, with the suspect vehicle that's been described as an 80s to 90s model sedan, possibly a Cutlass. And there's been some other descriptions that have come into us since then. And officers have been working diligently to locate these particular thugs, and will continue to do so. Now, as it relates to the 4 offenses or robberies that occurred north and Northwest Highway, we view those as what I would call serial robberies. Several offenses committed by the same suspects. And those 2 suspects have been arrested. We feel pretty darn comfortable that they were the ones responsible for all those. The 2 that occurred on this side, we do not see it in the same light, in that one, the suspects for the first offense have been arrested. We've also seen no connection between the suspects over here in relation to the suspects on the other side of Northwest Highway. So we see no, gang gathering or a group of thugs or what have you. They're working together to intentionally prey on our neighborhoods here, okay? So we don't see that happening at all. It's very unusual to see these type of offenses occur in these neighborhoods over here. So throughout this process, and even up through today and continuing, we have deployed additional patrols. We've put our bicycles in these neighborhoods. We've got our special teams continue to work in these neighborhoods with our crime response teams and our deployment teams. And we'll be continuing to work very hard to see if we can somehow identify and find these last 2 suspects and put them in jail as well. So we're still working very diligently with that. We're in communications with the robbery unit. We share information back and forth. And because the other 2 suspects that were arrested, they were also happened to be from Mesquite as well. And so, or had addresses over there at least. And so, we are constantly working back and forth with Mesquite, Garland, and Richardson. We all recognize the boundaries, but the bad guys don't. And so, it doesn't matter to them if they're offending in Dallas, if they're offending in Garland, Richardson, or Mesquite. So we have those connections back and forth between our agencies and share information all the time. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the individual arrests themselves. So I'll start with the first arrest that occurred regarding the robbery that occurred on Clearbrook, and this occurred back on the 27th of July. That night, officers began searching for a deep maroon Mercury Grand Marquis. They found it the next day in an apartment complex in Mesquite and conducted covert surveillance of the vehicle. The vehicle became occupied and drove to an address on Walnut Street in Dallas and picked up a black male. Meanwhile, other officers during this time went over to the target located over 6300 Northwest Highway, where the suspects had used the complainant's stolen credit cards immediately after the robbery to purchase an Xbox. These officers upon reviewing video and photos, forwarded still photos of the suspects to the surveillance officers, who realized that the male in the vehicle was one of the suspects that used the complainant's stolen credit card and was still wearing the same clothing from the video from the previous time. There's a clue. As the one comedian says, there's your sign. So in addition to that, uniformed officers pulled that vehicle over, arrested that suspect, and transported him down to the robbery unit to be interviewed. In the meantime, and a short while later, Northeast officers who were working on additional leads to follow up on into the location of the second suspect located him in the 9900 block of Walnut. And after a period of time of surveillance on him, the officers apprehended him and then brought him down to downtown to be interviewed by the robbery detectives as well. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to bring the following officers up who were responsible for the arrest and for and introduce you to them so you can see who the officers are that are out there working for you day in and day out, where the rubber meets the road and where the job gets done. So regarding this first arrest, I'd like Sergeant Lee to come up. We refer to him as Shorty. Mario Tanis. Jeff Hunter. Mark Woody. Jonathan Wilson. These are the guys who got it done. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to send them back out to the field so they can wreak havoc on the criminal elements. Okay, regarding the arrest that was made involving the offense that occurred on Lochwood, which occurred on the other side of Northwest Highway back on August the 4th, about 6 a.m., patrol officers responded to the robbery in progress call. The complainant was riding his bicycle when suspects pulled up next to him and demanded his iPhone and a password at gunpoint. The complainant complied, and around 6:17 or so, the complainant and officers began tracking the stolen iPhone. Officers soon located the suspect vehicle nearby and attempted a felony stop. The suspect vehicle evaded, and both occupants soon abandoned the vehicle on foot and fled on foot. Upon further investigation, it was determined that the suspect vehicle was stolen in a robbery in the University Park, I believe earlier that morning. The driver was quickly apprehended. The officers, meantime, set up a perimeter to keep the second suspect contained, and nearly 2 hours later, the suspect was observed hiding behind a residence and was taken into custody. And so I'd like to also introduce you to the officers who were involved in that arrest and had been working for several weeks at that point in time, making sure they were in that area and looking for suspects so that either one, we could prevent, or two, we could jump on another offense that occurred and make these arrests, which is what happened. So first, I'd like Cynthia Rispy to come up. Sergeant Rispy. Officer Michael Johnson. He didn't make it? Okay. Did Chris Jameson make it? Okay. Brian Everett. Okay. I don't see Brandon. Mitchell. He's not here either. Okay. Okay. Sergeant Openhampton. I see Open. Okay. Lacey Darnell. James Smith. Cameron Preston. Okay, and I'd also like for you to meet your canine officers, Curtis Steger and his friend, Ori. see standing before you, these are your midnight, overnight officers that are out there day in and day out. Okay, so when this arrest went down, it was kind of towards the end of their shift, and so they were very much awake and out there, Johnny on the spot. And again, this is where the rubber hits the road and the job gets done. And so please give these guys a big round of applause. Now, in that, these guys work the midnight shift, and they don't come on until about 11 or 12. If y'all don't mind, I'm going to let them go home and get a quick nap so they can be back and take care of business again. Guys, thank y'all so much. See where on this one, though, I was supposed to ask y'all to stay seated and not pet the dogs. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So what I'd like to do next is ask Sergeant Salverino to come up and just kind of talk about these robberies or robberies in general, what he sees as it relates from the detective perspective. Ross?
Good evening. I'm Ross Salverino from the robbery unit. As you can tell, the chief and I go back a long way, so if you need any information, call me. No, you've got a good man out here. I've known him for a long time. Robberies. I'm the sergeant over the robbery unit. Our unit is responsible for investigating individual robberies, business robberies, kidnappings. I have the FBI Violent Crime Task Force, which handles sensitive things in the Dallas area, bank robberies, and Hobbs Act business robberies. None of that part really affects y'all that much. What I'm here to talk about is your robberies, which affect you. You know, when we either identify a robber from one of the cases and then call one of these guys to go and find this person for us, or if they catch this person in the act and bring them up to our office, that's when our day begins. It's not just one offense. If you're a thief and a robber, you have robbed before, and you'll probably rob again. So what we do is we do initially investigate that first robbery, the one that the person was arrested on. But we have analysts and other detectives that go back and look for similar type robberies. We call it MOs, modus operandi. Do they do the same things? Do they look the same way? Do they have the same car? Do they have the same gun? Do they say the same things? And basically what happens is a lot of these robbers are career criminals. And usually when one is arrested, we usually end up finding one or two more offenses that they had committed earlier in their career that they hadn't been arrested for. The robbery unit has the highest conviction rate of any investigative unit in the police department. And the reason why they have that is because we dot every I and cross every T. Unfortunately, right now, the hottest stolen item are smartphones. It's an epidemic around the country for the last 2 years. And we all know why. No one can do without them. You see people bumping into poles walking down the street so they can play on their iPhone. You see people riding bikes, running over into the street and things like that. I mean, it's a way of life. And so we have more of those. And the reason why it's such an epidemic is we do have some big time fences that will package these things up and send them overseas for sale. But the coming thing, which I never thought about until it came to my attention last year, is a lot of these fix-it places will buy the stolen phones. They don't have to break into them, they just want them for the parts. When you break your screen or your plug to charge is broken off or something like that. So there's a big market for it. What we try to do when we do get good information We check with the different substations, in this case, Northeast Patrol, their analyst, and they check back with us multiple times a day with any type of trends or anything. You people are our eyes and ears, okay? You're out there. It may not be anything that important that you see, but it may be the one little piece that we might need to connect the dots on something that's happening in your area. And the way you do that is you get a hold of your neighborhood officers, you tell them what you have. Sometimes people will, no matter what happens, if they've had something stolen from them, they've been robbed. Well, there's thefts, there's burglaries, there's theft of motor vehicles, and then there's robberies. And so by giving that information to the MPOs and explaining what has happened as far as the information, they know exactly where to send that, whether it comes to me, whether it comes to the lieutenant in the property crimes unit at the station, or whether it goes to auto theft. So don't ever be afraid, because not saying anything is the bad part, because there's not any information that's bad information. It may not be something we can use now, but it's something that we want. The other thing is you've got probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 19 robbery detectives, and we're open from 7 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. And then from midnight to 7, we have an on-call unit that'll come out anytime these guys, Northeast or any other place, need us. They'll call when we come in. We try to contact everyone in a timely manner. Sometimes, every once in a while, you know how this happens. The cell phone that you had stolen is the phone number they put on the report. That happens, my detectives will go to, usually to your place of business or your house and try to talk to you or leave a card. If that's not successful, they'll send a little postcard out asking you to call. Now, that part about the phone number, a lot of times, you know, when a crime's committed towards you, it's stressful. You're not thinking right. That's why our officers will call back a day or two later, because you've had time to digest all this and take a deep breath, and maybe you might have remembered something that you didn't know at the time the officer was initially interviewing. So anytime you have anything, in fact, I didn't bring it with me, but I had a gentleman from one of your neighborhood associations talk to me about something very similar when he was getting ready to run or was running or walking around Flagpole Hill that gave us some information that we sent out. We have specialty crime units, uniformed officers at every station, and then at the main office downtown that do nothing but flood the hot areas. That's what they're there to do. And so just remember, anything you might see that you think might be important, it probably is. Let one of these guys know, they'll let us know. Or if it's something about your particular robbery case, call our detective. A lot of times, they're out in the field. If you don't get a quick enough response, you can call and just ask for one of the supervisors, either myself or Leo Gonzalez.
That's about it, Chief. Okay, thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to cover a few crime stats real quick. When you look at crime citywide, as you know, we've had 11 straight years of crime reduction, and we're working on the 12th. And over 11 years, we've had a crime reduction that's equal to about 47%, and it's outstanding. In fact, it leads the nation in that regard, and also leads, we also lead the state with other cities our size, Houston, San Antonio, so on and so forth. And so, which is due to the hard work of the men and women here at DPD. This year, thus far, citywide, we are down in crime overall. We're down 1%. Okay, it's small, but we're still down. And so, as time goes on, you know, crime is not going to be able to continue to keep going down and down and down and down. We're going to level off at some point in time, and then it's going to be kind of probably more about maintaining things and then seeing what we have to do with at that point in time. Northeast Station, we're down 2% in crime overall. And this fluctuates. It can go up and down really quickly from one day to the next. Because if I had been standing before you Friday night, I would have told you crime was down 4% in Northeast. And so, if we had this meeting Thursday this week, we might be up to 5 or 6%, down in crime, or I may be up a little bit in crime, I don't know. But we continue to look at it on a daily basis. And we try to deploy our resources where we see that crime occurring with. All three of these shifts are what we refer to as watches. They all understand, what our mission is and what the expectations are to work on that and answer calls for police service at the same time. I know that there's also been some questions about burglaries. As it relates to burglaries themselves, what we're seeing in the neighborhoods is we're pretty much flat. Basically, the same number of burglaries that happened last year to date at this time have occurred this year. And of course, as far as I'm concerned, one burglary is one burglary too many. But the good news is we're not seeing any kind of spike. We're not seeing anything out of normal for that. But to kind of speak a little bit further about burglaries, that's why I've asked Lieutenant Webb to come and say a few words regarding that issue. So if you had Eric come, please.
Yes, good evening. My unit that I work in is currently we have 13 detectives that do the follow-up investigations on primarily burglaries, thefts, and general property crimes of that nature. Once an officer files a case in the field, it will come to us, to one of our detectives. And at that point, our first things we try to do is try to locate any witnesses that might have been to the case, or videos, things like this, fingerprints and those kind of things that we can use to do the follow-up investigation itself. In reviewing the areas of property crimes in the last maybe 2.5 months or so, I did find that there were a number of burglaries, but they happened to be garage burglaries or shed burglaries. So there's a prime concern right there in terms of what's being broken into. And also on the BMVs in the general area, there were quite a few unlocked vehicles as well that were being broken into. So, but we do have one case in particular where we have some suspect information. A person tried to make entry into a home in the Bon Air area. And very limited suspect information this time, but we do have some fingerprints that are being evaluated. And at this time, we haven't had any feedback yet on what that status is. If any of y'all had a particular question or comment, maybe on a particular case or something that you might have been involved in, after the meeting, I can be over here in the corner if you care to talk to me about those issues or anything else that I can be of assistance to you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, I just want to mention a few things. When I sit back and I look at the crime that's happening throughout the Northeast Division, this division is the largest division in the city. It's about 87 square miles, according to the 2010 census, a population of about 287,000. I'm sure it's grown substantially since then. Have approximately 275 cops that work out of this station. And we're unique in a lot of different ways. We have the best of the best, and we have some of the worst of the worst if you look at this division as a whole. And so we're the busiest station in the city. So when you kind of think about the size of this division, the number of officers we have, and what have you, we're bigger than most of the suburbs that surround us. So we're kind of a little city within ourselves, so to speak. And that's kind of the way I look at it. And so as I'm looking at crime at the Northeast Division, and not just myself, but the whole entire command staff out here, is not only do we look at the crime and where we're going to put the cops and where we're going to put our toys and where we're going to advocate for additional resources to be brought in, but also look at it from the perspective, okay, what else can we do? What other force multipliers are out there as it relates to working with the public and working with the fine citizens that live in this division? And so see some, as a result of what's happened, I see some opportunities here that I'm just going to mention briefly. And then Katie's going to talk a little bit about some of it, and Mickey's going to talk a little bit about some of it also. But in these type of scenarios, and you guys, we've got different neighborhoods here because I see the different faces and I recognize you. We do have a lot of good crime watch personnel and crime watch groups that make up this area of the division. But should you not live in one of those neighborhoods, I would strongly encourage you to think about maybe stepping up as a leader for your particular neighborhood and take charge of a crime watch in your neighborhood. We're here for you, and that's what part of what your neighborhood police officers are for, is to help you put one of those together. We will help you put those meetings together and help you reach out to your neighborhood and get more people involved in crime watches. Because as Sergeant Salverino said a while ago, you guys are our eyes and ears. You literally are. Without y'all, we're dead in the water a lot of times. Another thing to do, and you already heard it allude to a little bit, I know some of the neighborhoods also do this too, and that's the Volunteers Patrol Program. This would be a good time to either relook at those things and try to strengthen your Volunteers Patrol Program, or if you don't have one in your neighborhood, again, get with your NPO officer. Let us help you put a Volunteers and Patrol program together. And Katie's going to talk a little bit about that, what that entails. And the neighborhoods who decide to participate in those things really do see less crime. They really do. We want you to be armed with information. That's why we put together the pamphlet that you saw out front with all kinds of different tips and information. So take time to kind of review that. And then what some neighborhoods do, those who choose to do, and this is just totally an option and one consideration of many to help with reducing crime. Some neighborhoods like to implement what they call an extra neighborhood patrol program, and that's where the neighborhood has decided as a whole, if they decide they want to hire an officer to work patrolling their neighborhood, we provide a squad car, and then that officer or officers work specifically in your neighborhood, patrol your neighborhood to also help reduce crime. But regardless of any of this, we are still here on an ongoing basis, 24/7, doing our best to make sure your neighborhoods are as safe as possible, regardless of what you decide to do or not do. So I just want everybody to be clear on that. So let me ask Katie to come up, and she'll give you kind of a brief overview of the Volunteers and Patrol Program.
Alrighty, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Volunteers in Patrol is. The whole point of Volunteers in Patrol, like Chief was saying, there's a limited number of officers out there on the street, and there is a large community of you guys out here in your neighborhoods, and you know the area that you live. Many of you have lived here for a long time, and you've gotten to know some of the neighbors and faces, so how can we partner together to help reduce some of the crime in the neighborhood? And one of those is the Volunteers in Patrol program. So the Volunteers in Patrol program, it's all about those extra eyes and ears out in the neighborhood. You guys out in the neighborhood, calling if you've seen something suspicious. Driving around in a vehicle in a team of two and looking for those suspicious activities that need to be observed and reported to the police department so that we can follow up on them and see if maybe those are our burglary or robbery suspects. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to put that extra presence in your neighborhood. It's going to let your neighbors know that there's extra eyes out there just keeping an eye on what's going on. And it's also going to let the bad guys know that this is a neighborhood that is watching out for itself. This is a completely non-confrontational program. This is not about going out there and chasing down the bad guys. It's about just being an extra set of eyes and ears to see and hear what's going on and let DPD know if there's something going on that we need to be made aware of. So like I was saying, if you go out in teams of two, if you have seen VIPs in your neighborhood, then you know that they drive around in a car with magnets on the side of their car saying usually which neighborhood they're from, and an amber beacon on top of their car. All of that is to let you know that they're VIPs and not that suspicious person driving down the alley in the evening. We don't want to call 911 on our VIPs because they're out there helping you guys. So you go out in teams of two, whether it be a car or if you go out in teams of two walking or running. The whole point is to make it as safe as possible for you guys, but to also help aid us in removing some of the criminals from your neighborhood. So to become a volunteer in patrol, it's a 4-hour training class. Usually they're either on a Saturday or it's broken up into 2 evenings. The next class coming up, we have some sheets out front. If you were able to grab one of those, if we ran out, then I'd be more than happy to tell you. The class is going to be Monday, August 31st from 7 to 9 p.m. And the second part of that class is going to be the following night. September 1st, it's a Tuesday, from 7 to 9 p.m. is also. The classes are held here at the Northeast Substation. We talk a little bit about the program, the history of it, but we get into some more of the nitty-gritty that we sometimes don't have time to at the crime watch meetings, such as suspicious activity, things to look for, how to report that to police department, how to be a good witness so that if you do happen to see a crime committed, how do you get that information to the detectives so that they can hopefully locate these individuals. And then we go over a little bit more about 911 and our dispatch system and how all that takes a role so that when you call 911, how does that make it to the police officers out on the street? So we talk about that a little bit. We're always looking for more people in the neighborhoods. I know that a number of the neighborhoods here have volunteers in patrol, but the more people out there keeping an eye out for crime, the greater likelihood that we're gonna remove some of these criminals and get them moving on their way to keep your neighborhood as safe as possible. So I hope to see you guys at the next class. If you can't make this upcoming 2-night class, we're also going to be having a class on Saturday, October 17th. And that's going to be a 1-day class from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So my contact information is in this booklet that was outside. So if you have any questions about the VIP program, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Thank you.
Nick, you don't look like I forgot you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Come on up, buddy.
I always forget about it. That's okay. You guys, I look unfamiliar to you. Am I talking loud enough? Because I'm not good at just standing behind something talking. I'll try, but I'll promise you I will veer this way and veer that way. But I'm always the other guy, the other officer. Most of you know Katie, my partner. Everybody loves Katie. And if you ever hear any officer or anybody in your organization, like Barbara or the leaders of your associations, say, well, call that the MPO officer, and they say, not Katie, but that other guy. That's going to be that's going to be me. Soon, hopefully, that will change. I'm hoping that will change as I get to know more of you and I get out there and I get involved with your neighborhoods and things like that. But anyway, guys, when you guys come in, you got a crime prevention tips booklet. If you did not get that, be sure and grab one on your way out. Now, in this crime prevention tips booklet, it kind of outlines, it kind of describes, defines most of the common violent and property crimes that you may be dealing with. Some of the things that the chief has talked about, some of the things Sergeant Salverino and Lieutenant Webb have talked about. I'm gonna hit I'm just gonna skim over just a little bit of this stuff for time purposes. I know you guys have some questions, but really I want you to, when you leave here, I want you to dig into this really good, okay, and take a look at it and take time to read it, okay. But anyway, burglaries. As it pertains to burglaries, what comes to mind for me is simple things like making sure your garage door is closed. If you're out mowing the lawn during the middle of the day on a Saturday close your garage door as you're going back and forth. I know that's inconvenient. It's inconvenient for me. I can just imagine it's going to be inconvenient for you, but trust me, criminals that are going to commit these types of crimes are going to be looking for stuff like that. I promise you they look for it. So close garage doors. Lighting at night. Turn your lights on. Back porch, front porch. If you've got overhead garage lights, get some kind of motion sensor or something like that. Not only will that help you, but it'll also help your neighbors if they're out at night walking or running or biking or whatever. Okay, light that place up. Street lights. If you see your street lights aren't lit, let somebody know that. Either you notify, you can do it through 311. There's you can even take a picture of the pole, send that through the iWatch, at least iWatch, the 311 app. the 311 app, or even contact Encore yourself, okay? Those are really important. Also with burglaries, I think of Operation ID. You guys mark your property, especially the flat screen TVs, very popular. Stolen items, mark those, some kind of identifying number. On top of that, write down those serial numbers. Keep those in a safe place where maybe they won't be. It will enhance, if you've got the serial numbers, when the officers respond to your location to report your crime, if you've got those serial numbers, it will greatly enhance the chance of you getting your property back. I promise you it will. It'll help greatly. Second thing I think about is the security surveys. The NPO unit at the Northeast Division provides security surveys free of charge for anybody that wants it. Security surveys. We have Mitch Gatz. Mitch, are you here? Is Mitch here? I thought I saw Mitch earlier. Anyway, Mitch works in our unit as an NPO up in the 40s, a little farther north. But he specializes and coordinates that security survey that he offers. And it's anytime, it's at your convenience. All you have to do is call him, and he will set it up at your convenience. He'll come out on the weekend. He'll come out in the evening, during the day, whenever. Security surveys will consist of things like locking mechanisms on your doors. Something maybe you've never heard of is landscaping. Okay? You've got bushes covering windows. That's not good. Okay? Simple things like that, he will come out and he will point those out to you free of charge at your convenience. And it will greatly prevent or help prevent burglars from targeting your residence. Okay? So think about that stuff. Moving on to robberies. Okay? Robberies of individuals, which is things that you guys are, you're most concerned with or while we're here. When I think of robberies, I think of suspicious activity. And I think of the criminals committing robberies are typically, in my 20 years of experience, those are criminals that are very opportunistic. They look for the easy target, okay? The quick, easy target in and out. Some of the things to think about is suspicious activity, okay? When I think of suspicious activity, I think of the best way to define it for me is look, guys, if it looks suspicious, if it's out of place, it is suspicious. Don't hesitate to report that stuff. Now, here's what I see in my 20 years of experience. Here's what I see most common in citizens whenever I talk to them about them being a victim of crime. Man, I saw that guy just 2 minutes before the crime, or 5 minutes before the crime occurred. What did they do? They didn't report it. What did they do? They rationalized it. You can't rationalize this suspicious behavior. There's a reason why it doesn't look right. Don't rationalize it. You see a guy driving down the road, is that necessarily suspicious? No. But what if he's driving fast and all of a sudden he starts getting to you and he starts slowing down and he starts looking at you? That becomes suspicious. Report that activity. Okay? Pay attention to that activity. Call 911 immediately when you see that kind of activity. Okay? Get police officers on their way to your location. Don't rationalize it. Don't say, he probably thought I was going to cross the road, okay, so he was slowing down for me. No, don't rationalize it, okay, I promise. A guy riding a bicycle down the road, is that suspicious? No, not necessarily. But what if he's riding in between houses, from the alley to the backyard, in between houses and stuff? That becomes suspicious. What if he's wearing a big heavy coat and it's 90 degrees outside? Trust me, he's not cold-natured. He's not, I promise. Okay, don't rationalize the suspicious activity or suspicious behavior. It's not the person that's suspicious, okay? It's the behavior that's occurring with the person. That makes it suspicious, okay? Don't hesitate to call 911 and report that stuff, okay? Does everybody understand where I'm going with that? Okay. Next thing I want to do is, again, reporting these things, guys. You've got to get on the phone and call 911 to report this stuff. We have very, very intelligent, very street-savvy detectives that get reports on suspicious activity. We have a policy in our department. If a suspicious activity call comes out, or officers respond, they're required to do a report. Why? Why is because the very intelligent, street-savvy detective that's now sitting in the office, trust me, he's worked the street. He didn't just start out there. He knows what he's looking at. He knows when he gets it, he looks at it. Okay? It may not, I think Sergeant Salverino hit on this. Guys, it may not be anything right then, right now, but it could be later on. Okay, you start making these reports. Hey, I was out jogging, a blue car. I didn't get a description of the suspect, but it was a blue Toyota Camry with black wheels that was driving up and down. Okay, that's going to be reported as such. Okay, those intelligent, street-savvy detectives are going to start connecting the dots and tying these things together. Okay, they're going to start tying. It might not have happened to you, and it might not have happened to you in your neighborhood at that time, but guess what? 30 minutes to an hour later, it happened to somebody else in another neighborhood. Okay, they will tie that stuff together. Okay, don't rationalize this behavior. Don't think, oh, it was this or oh, it was that. No. No, it wasn't just oh this or oh that. Okay? There's something to it, and you need to report that. You need to be diligent in reporting that stuff. Okay? All right, guys. Hey, that's really, I know we're pressing time, Chief, and if you have any more questions about this stuff, I promise you, I'll be here at the end of it. You can talk to me, but for sure, get this booklet if you have not already gotten it. Get this booklet and take some time and read over this stuff, okay? And remember, I'm Officer Hicks. You can call me Mickey. You can call me Officer Hicks. You can call me whatever you want. I'm Katie's partner. I'll get to know everybody in the future. Thank you.
You know, Mickey, he hasn't been with us very long, and he may not be able to tell this or not, but this is actually his first time to talk in front of a big group. So I have plans for him. Just in closing with our presentation, there's a couple things I want to say real quick, and there's some thanks I want to give. I want to thank the community here in this area for being so involved in their neighborhoods continuously. Y'all have a history of doing that, and never let that go. It's very, very important. That's part of the reason why this area always stays safe and has the reputation that it has. Not that we don't have some hiccups from time to time, but it stays safe. Appreciate you being involved, and for those who were the victims of some of these things, I want to thank you guys for having the fortitude to work through, to call 911, to have the fortitude to remember some descriptions of suspects going through a very stressful period like that, remembering descriptions of vehicles and things of that nature. All that information always helps us do a better job for you. Okay, so thank all of y'all for being here, because it means that you care. Also, again, I want to thank Barbara Arredondo. I also want to thank John Jones for kind of working and putting this together. You've got two great community leaders here in your neighborhoods that I think if you follow their lead and participate with them, work with them, volunteer with them, I think you can continue to accomplish great things in your neighborhood. So, John and Barbara, thank you all very much for that. And the last thing I'll say just in closing is, again, I'd be remiss if I didn't again thank the officers that work in Northeast. You have a good group of officers here who care, who take a lot of pride in putting the bad guy in jail and keeping the neighborhood safe. So I've got to thank them again as well. So thank you all very much, and I think Barbara wants to say a few words. We're going to do some Q&A or something like that. So thank you, everyone.
Melissa McSpadden, our security director, could not be here, so at the last minute, I'm stepping in to give you a little bit of information on
Can you tell everybody your last name, since I got it wrong so bad?
Samaha,
Yeah.
Sam Samaha. The status of our VIP program, we have 20 people who have taken the training and are authorized to patrol. And we've had, I don't have an exact number, but we've had an increase in the patrols since the August 5th robbery that happened right back here. So that's something that we can be proud of, that it got us motivated to start patrolling again. Because when there's no crime, it seems like the patrols go down. And that's not the way it should be. Like the chief said, active VIP programs drive crime down. It's a fact. That's the way it works. So we've got 20 now. Our goal is to get 40, to double it by the end of the year. And the only way we can do that is if you sign up for the VIP training. Either the one at the end of this month or the one in October. So please consider that. That's one thing everybody here, not everybody, but a good number of people, it's within your capability to do that. And they've streamlined the training to 4 hours now. They have it right up the street, Northwest Highway. It couldn't be any easier to take part in that. So take advantage of it. Talk to Katie if you need more information. Yes.
Sam, how many hours a month or a day would you have to be able to put in to do that?
I think a patrol is 2 hours, that any time that you can do it, but 2 hours you can cover the neighborhood.
The police department requires you to patrol once in a 2-year period to stay active. I think most neighborhoods would appreciate you putting, an hour or two each month in to help out.
How demanding. So you can just do your own schedule.
Within your neighborhood, yeah. Work with your VIP leader.
Thank you.
And OLHSecurity.com, you can get all the information. The website has been upgraded, updated. If you go there, you can find out everything you need to know about VIP, membership in the neighborhood association, volunteer opportunities. There's a couple of board positions that are still open. We could use some help with that. And I just want to thank everybody for making the time to come out here tonight. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that you could have done with your couple of hours. And everybody said all the stuff I was going to say. DallasPolice.net, the website, if you haven't been to that, bookmark it and put it up there in your toolbar and check it out every day. There's all sorts of information and links to other information there. And the other thing is stay alert, call 911, and leave your porch lights on. And talk to your neighbor. So, yes.
I just wanted to point out one of the distressing things I see with Nextdoor.com service. People seem to think that reporting suspicious activity on Nextdoor is the equivalent of calling 911.
I'll tell you, I apologize, Chief Giovanni. That was something I should have addressed, and I apologize. And I'm new at this. Cut me a little slack just a little bit. But no, you're right. That's exactly right. And that was part of something that I wanted to talk about when I said report that to 911. If you want to use the social media with the Nextdoor or the Facebook, I mean, all of that is okay. I don't really have a problem with that. Now, there are some things that I would caution you with. If you're going to do that, be very careful what you say and how you say it. Make sure that things are very accurate into the way they played out. You don't want to send your neighborhood into a panic over things that didn't occur the way you've put it out there that it occurred. But first and foremost, if you're going to do that, first do 911. First call 911. That's got to be first and foremost, okay? As police officers, we have a succession of things. First things first, second things second, third things third, fourth things fourth, It's no different, guys. 911 is first. Then maybe your EMP neighborhood, if you have an EMP, maybe your EMP officer. Then maybe your VIP coordinator. Then maybe social media. But again, be very judicious. If you're going to post something on social media, be very careful on how you explain it and what you're saying. Again, you don't want to put something out there that's not accurate, okay, or is going to send your neighborhood or your neighbors in a panic, okay? I promise, don't do that. Your neighbors don't deserve that, and you as well, your neighborhood, just don't do it. Be careful, okay? I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. I got 3 nudges over here when that question came up, guys. That was you. Okay, thanks.
I just want to add one more thing to that. If originally thought that was the full details, and it comes out that maybe that wasn't completely accurate, it would be helpful to your neighborhood to maybe edit that post, remove it, because if somebody who hasn't seen the updated details about what happened reads that post, it's going to create that kind of stir up in the neighborhood again. So if you do happen to accidentally post something and find out later that, well, maybe that's not what happened, if you can go back and edit it, that way the rest of your neighborhood is aware of the correct details of the events, that would be helpful.
And it is kind of a hidden feature on Nextdoor, but you do have the ability to do that, to delete it or edit it or shut it down, I think. So that's all I have. I'm sure there's questions. I'm not sure how we're going to do this. Do we have?
Yeah, I do want to, there's other neighborhood leaders here tonight, and they have VIP programs as well, so I know with the sake of time, we do want to get to Q&A, but for those people that live in other neighborhoods outside of Old Lake Highlands, please approach your neighborhood leader tonight or tomorrow and ask them about your VIP program and get involved. We're going to go ahead and start the Q&A, and then we'll do that for another 15 minutes, you guys, or 20. Feel free to leave if you've got to go, but we're going to open it up to the crowd and just ask questions. So anyone who wants to, you can approach the mic here.
I'm almost wondering, after hearing of these events, should I just go out without my cell phone? But if someone approaches and says, give me your cell phone, could I be shot? I mean, what is the advice? You don't want to walk around holding it in your hand, perhaps. But what is good advice from you?
Yeah, I think the question was, she didn't feel like, should she go out without a cell phone, since that's the hot item that these hijackers are taking from people. My advice is no, don't go out without your cell phone. Because you do, number one, you do need to report anything suspicious going on around you. You need to be paying attention to what's going on and report that. But what I would suggest is possibly hiding it in a pocket where it's not visible or out in the open. Maybe cupping it with your hand or just keeping it in your pocket or something of that nature, okay? You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Were the 6 robberies armed? You said one of them was. Were all 6 armed robberies? And besides the cell phone, I heard you say there was the use of a credit card. So was a wallet taken? Were they all, I mean...
Yeah, apparently, all of them were armed.
All of them were armed?
Correct. And apparently there was obviously a wallet taken in one of them, but not in every one of them. Yes, sir. Sure.
So, I've attended lots of public meetings, so I'm not going to sit here and rant and rave or anything. Just want everybody to just get educated. And I'm certainly not calling the chief a liar by any stretch of the imagination. But the chief did make comments on statistics. Go to DallasPolice.net and look for yourself and realize there's 2 divisions that stand out with crime. 2. One is Northeast, and another one is, I think, Southeast. But go look for yourself. And within the DallasPolice.net and the crime reports, there's beats. They do a very, very good job of taking Northeast in a map, and then you can go to your particular neighborhood, the beat, and you can see the crime stats there. Get educated. Understand the statistics he's talking about. Yeah, overall crime is going down 1% maybe as of today. But the fact that they're here and we've had aggravated assaults with a weapon, that's a big deal in this neighborhood. I moved in here a year ago, fully aware property crime was a big mess here. I knew that. But I also look at aggravated assault, and that's not common in this little area. It's common in the Northeast part of the Northeast Division, and they all know it. That's where they spend most of their time. But the fact that we're having aggravated assaults here recently, it is a big deal. And that's why everyone here is freaked out. So just get educated. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but understand what's happening in your area, in your neighborhood. You'll just take his word for it. Do your own research.
But let me comment to that real quick, and I would echo what he's saying. Make yourself educated. That's why we have the public information available, is for you to be able to do that day in and day out, know what's going on in a specific neighborhood. So I encourage you to do so. Sir.
Okay, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I was at the last meeting, and I just want to re-encourage that my wife is the victim of the last crime that happened at gunpoint to steal her iPhone, okay? Right at Hicks Elementary in the parking lot, okay? Obviously, I'm very upset, okay? But I can positively identify the vehicle. It's a two-door Cutlass or Buick Regal made from 1985 to 1987 with big giant rims on it. They cruised through my alley. I saw them. I was playing with my children outside. What was I going to do? I wasn't going to abandon them to go chase this car around, and it happened a quarter of a mile from my home and my complex, okay? So no one here has more charged than me, okay? And I apologize in advance. And I thank all you officers. You responded. My only complaint was that I searched the neighborhood and I never saw any officers. I appreciate all you guys and all you do, and I know that you're on the lookout for these guys. But there's no doubt that it is a two-door General Motors Oldsmobile Buick Regal made from 1985 to 1987 with oversized rims on it, had pipes on it. It was followed down my alley by a two-door General Motors Chevrolet pickup, not a crew cab, not a extended cab, single cab pickup, okay?
What color?
They were both dark and black. My alley makes the T. I was at the bottom of the T. I saw them. They made the right. I heard the noise. I looked. What was I going to do? You know, I saw them. Little did I know they're going to rob my wife 600 yards away. Okay, she left because she was angry because she didn't want me to say anything. She's very timid. She's 5 feet tall, weighs about 100 pounds, and is the most victimless person in this room. Okay, I'm the last victimless person in this room. Okay, and so I don't know what else to say other than I appreciate you guys. But that is a positive identification on the vehicle. A positive identification on the vehicle. Two doors, General Motors, Oldsmobile Buick, 1985 to 1987. Google it, look at it, see it. That is what it is. When I was growing up, I took Motor Trend magazine. You name it, I know what I dreamed of owning a 442. Okay, so I know what it is. Okay, and I'm serious, and I'm very upset. She's upset that I said anything. The officer that came up here, I believe it was you, sir, and talked about the next door, and I knew all the psycho rants that go on the next door, and I left the next door because I thought the psycho rants were crazy. You know, everybody's hearing gunshots, everybody's hearing this, that, and the other thing. We live in the big city, I understand all this kind of stuff. This happened, 500 feet from my home. I was outside watching my children. We have a house valued above $400,000. There's absolutely no excuse from it. We live from the, half a mile from the cop station, a half a mile from the $2 million dog park we just built. So if you guys are underfunded, I'm very sorry for that. I hope that is not the case of our elected officials, because if we can afford to build that, we should be able to afford to fund you guys to protect our neighbors. And I am glad to see I'm not a VIP patrol person, but I do patrol the neighborhood. I drive a white Nissan Frontier. It's 4 doors, and it's got my company name that you can see all over my shirt on the back windshield. And if you see me, please, it's got an OLH sticker on the back bumper as well. And I patrol the neighborhood. And that's just the case. And I'm here to help our neighbors. I am surrounded by single women, okay, that live in our neighborhood. I am everyone's best friend, okay? I help them all with all their tasks, okay? We have a lot of single ladies. We have a lot of single people that live in this neighborhood. I'm in real estate. I've invested a lot of money in this area. Apologize for being on a rant, but I'm very involved in our neighborhood. Probably more than 99% of the people in this room, both financially and my family-wise. And so I just want you to know that I have a positive identification on the vehicle. And that is what it is, okay? And I appreciate you guys coming, and I appreciate all that you do. And I want everyone in here to know that it's a two-door, 1985 to 1987 Oldsmobile.
I'm so glad you said something about it. In what way, we're also appreciative of the officers, in what way do you think would be the most effective gesture that we could do to show our appreciation to the officers? Collecting more toys for the Christmas and deliver cookies, have those meetings where we shake hands with officers? What do you think is the most effective gesture of appreciation?
You know, pretty much all the above. I would comment as it relates to the baked goods. They tend to make us a little heavier and slower. And so, throw some protein in there and that sort of thing, that would be helpful. But I just want to just real quickly say, anybody has a right to be upset when they're a victim of a crime, and we fully get that, and we consider that gentleman our friend. And we're here for him and everybody else in this room, his wife and what have you. And so our hearts go out to them as it relates to that traumatic event that they experienced. And so I think he's already left the room, but my comments to him are going to be, one of the comments is going to be is that I'm glad that he patrols the neighborhood, but what I would much prefer to see, I would like to see him work with his Volunteers Patrol program and patrol the neighborhood. So that way you're involved with an organized group where you've had some training and you get to know us better, we get to know you better, you get to know your neighbors better. And for those of you who may be neighbors of the gentleman, if you would maybe visit with him and try to encourage him to join your VIP program, because I think he'll probably be one of your leaders. He's pretty motivated right now. Rightfully so, I'm not trying to make fun of that. But I think that's something to seriously consider. Yes, ma'am.
This will be a quick question. I live in Alger Park, Ash Creek, and there were 2 incidents, I think, of citizens maybe having a drug reaction, and it was reported and responded to. And then I think talk through Facebook, very minimal, seemed real responsible that maybe they were meth reactions. And so I think in both cases, I think in the first case it was a police response. I saw that out my front window. And then in the second case, I think EMTs in a fire truck took in the person. But, talk about maybe a meth reaction. So, and people noticed it. They're driving down the street, they see somebody ripping off their clothes, punching in the air, those kinds of things. So any comment or any investigations going on with that? Alger Park, Ash Creek, right on PV. So that'd be Cassidy Haven on one side, Alger Park, Ash Creek on the other side.
Okay, a couple of things with what you might believe to be a drug house occurring in your neighborhood is one, you need to call your NPO officer in that regard and share as much detail about the information as you can about that particular incident, what's taking place, the cars you see coming and going, the people you see coming, the behavior. Do you notice any patterns? Do they always walk around to the side of the window? Do they always walk around to the back? Or do they always go to the front door and maybe knock twice and wait a minute, knock 3 more times, something like that? And then we'll take that information and we'll forward to our narcotics division for them to work, because they'll do all that sort of thing in an undercover capacity. Another piece of your question as it relates to the strange behavior that people pulling their clothes off and acting crazy and what have you, this is what we call excited delirium. That's a very dangerous situation. First of all, stay away from them. Do not try to approach them. Call 911. Again, explain to the operator exactly what you're seeing, and let us and the paramedics approach that scenario, because it'll take several officers to deal with individuals who are going through excited delirium, because they have amazing strength when they're going through that. And they're also very close to killing off too. Their body temperature rises greatly. Their eyes dilate. They're not right in their mind. They could hurt themselves. But they can also, their heart could just give out on instantaneously. So it's a very dangerous situation, so stay away from it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 questions. The first one's really easy. I'd like a few comments on the VIP training, what it includes, why it takes 4 hours to learn to drive around. And the other one is, I'm also on Nextdoor and other social media, and I guess I'd like to hear a little response to a number of people's complaints about response time. you know, how long they're on the ground before somebody shows up, or someone pulling at the screen door and nobody ever shows up in response to 911 calls. And that's it.
You'll do the VIP first.
So the volunteers in patrol training, it's not just about, I guess, driving around and patrolling the neighborhood. It's about teaching you to recognize those suspicious activities that we as police officers spend 8 months in the police academy trying to learn before we hit the streets. So it's just trying to give you that idea as to really get into the nitty-gritty of what should I be looking for as far as being suspicious, and then how do I report that to 911 so that that information is delivered to the officers so that they're best able to locate that individual or that vehicle that you're calling about. We do go over the rules of the program because it is a volunteer program with the police department, and then we talk about 911, and one of those things that we talk about is actually how calls are prioritized, why officers might respond faster to one call versus another call. So we go in depth a little bit more, not just about driving around and looking for activity, but how the police department itself works so that you have a better understanding, as a citizen, how it all comes together from when you pick up that call to that officer showing up on your doorstep.
Plus, that program used to be 8 hours, and so we've reduced it to 4 for that reason, because that's asking a lot of time with folks. But to your second question, I mean, everybody probably knows this already, but anyway, we dispatch based on priority. And our calls are labeled as priority 1, 2, 3, and 4, obviously priority 1 being the highest calls. And so if you call in a call that might be a priority 3 or a priority 4, and that one's been sitting for a little bit because you have some other priority calls that have taken place, and all of a sudden that priority 1 comes on, well, that priority 3 or 4 is going to wait a little bit longer, unfortunately. And so we have to dispatch based on the importance of the call, if you will. When we talk about priority 1s or 2s, especially priority 1s, we're talking about potential danger, potential life threats, and things of that nature. So we've got to respond to those first. There are some nights, I mean, we are inundated with calls, and this is the busiest station in the city, quite honestly. And there's times that we are just inundated, and the officers are answering those calls as fast as they can, as fast as the dispatcher puts them out. And then sometimes what happens is the dispatcher, trying to work through all the priority of all the calls they've got holding here, and are trying to find elements to clear, and are asking elements to clear so they can go answer those calls. They may have held that call, and maybe it took them an hour or 2 hours to get the call dispatched, but when the officer gets it, he gets there in 4 or 5 minutes. And then what happens sometimes is he bears the brunt of a citizen being upset because it took so long to get there. And it was due to no fault of his or her own. And so it's something that we're continuously working with. We continue to strive to get those calls answered as fast as we can based on a priority system. Yes, ma'am.
What's the priority? How do you list them as priority? What's priority 1 and 2, 3?
Well, priority 1 is going to be an emergency call, serious accident, shooting or cutting, medical issue. Priority 2 is going to be kind of like these robberies we were talking about, a very serious cause, but it's already happened. Nobody's hurt, but we need to try to get there as quick as we can to start trying to, work the perimeter of the area, get the information out, and start working as quick as we can. Your 3s and 4s are going to end up being things, again, kind of after the fact, with like maybe a burglary that happened while you're at work and you come home in the evening and your house has been burglarized, and so you call, and obviously we want to get there as quick as we can, there's no question about that, but it's already happened, and then those that are a higher priority that have to be answered first, and so, but we're still trying to get to. And so in a nutshell, that's kind of basically the way it works, if that makes sense. Life versus property, or people versus property. Yes, ma'am.
On the robberies, have they approached anybody walking a dog? Or are they just walking alone?
I don't think they've approached anybody walking a dog, to my knowledge. Yes, ma'am.
On your note of priorities, is there an alternate number if you just want to report suspicious behavior? I personally would have a really big problem calling 911 because they say, what is the nature of your emergency? I'm really cooked on linguistics. Is there an alternate number that I can give that information, but I don't feel that I'm burdening 911?
Okay, so let me say, if you feel like there's suspicious behavior, I'm going to tell you again, Vicky was talking about, I need you to call 911. I don't care if it takes me 24 hours to get there, I still need you to call 911. Okay? And so, because that information is now a record. It is now a record. And like Sergeant Salverino was saying earlier, you never know what one record will connect all the dots for you. You just never know. And so let's take 2 more questions, and Ann, you were here first.
Okay, thank you. This is another problem that I have had with security, and it goes to something that appeals to all of us, and it's giving to a charity. You get a call, someone says, yes, you've done this for maybe 20 years. Put your check address to the charity underneath your mat in front of your house. I did that, and someone stole it, took it down to a neighboring city. For $25, they purchased almost $1,000 worth of merchandise from Walmart. So I went for 3 months, actually probably more than that. Fortunately, my bank believed me, but I mean, they did scrutinize me. And had I not had such a long relationship with them, it would have been a different thing. But the police department was very interactive with me and helped me, and I never paid for it. The bank had to absorb it, but they did find the person. So, long story short, I don't leave checks outside anymore. It's a hard lesson to learn. But you think you're doing good, and you've done it for 20 years, and things have changed.
You're absolutely right. There are all kinds of scams out there, everybody. We have some identity theft guidelines and tips in that booklet that we passed out. If you don't recognize the person that's called you for asking for some type of charitable donation or what have you, do not participate. Do not participate. If you don't recognize them, you didn't ask for them, you didn't seek out who you want to donate to, then don't do it. Resist that temptation. Just don't do it. Contribute to the organizations you want to contribute to, and you take the initiative to do that. And they're very savvy, and they prey upon people. But I would suggest to anytime somebody's making a solicitation call and you don't get it, just hang up. Just hang up. And we'll take one more question, sir.
I'll try to keep this brief. First, I'm coming up from Lake Park Estates, and so I think, is Casa View part of the area that you guys handle? Okay. A while back, there was something that went out on our neighborhood list, and this is sort of the first of 2 things. So I'll just get them both out and sit down so you can answer the questions. There was someone who was reportedly, he came out in his driveway, very early in the morning, and somebody, stabbed him in the hand and took something from him. And so ever since we read about this, my wife and I have been, kind of keeping our eyes peeled when we open the garage in the morning to drive out and start our day. So I'm just wondering if there's any updates on that or any safety tips. That's my first thing. My second thing is, you're here, we're lucky enough to have some folks from City Council here. The city spends money on a lot of things, but I can't think of anything more important they could be spending on than public safety. So since you've got a public forum, my second question is, what do you need and how can we lobby the city to get it for you? Thank you.
You guys have some answers to the first question?
The offense that you're referring to is about 3 or 4 weeks old, if I remember correctly. The gentleman was going out to go to work. Someone had come from the sidewalk and ran up towards him, and I believe they asked for his money or wallet, and then a struggle ensued, and he got cut on the hand. The detective that was handling that talked with the complainant and canvassed the area. The description of the suspect at that time didn't fit anybody who lived in the area. The complainant, the person that was actually cut, had never seen the person before and didn't get a real good look at him other than to say that it appeared that homeless may not be the right term, but it was someone who possibly had lived out on the street. And that's about all. There was no vehicle. The subject took off in a unknown direction as he rounded the car, and at this point, there's no leads on it at all. But it hasn't happened again in that area, because that's one of the things that we always look for. Every one of our units has at least one crime analyst. That's what he does every day. And we try to look for trends like that. And fortunately, that scenario has not happened in that area or anywhere close to that area. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. And then, in answer to your second question, is a few things. One is you don't know how valuable just your support for the officers is with everything that's taking place across the nation right now with law enforcement. Your support and letting the officers know your support goes a long way with them. And I have probably had more people come up to me to extend their appreciation for the police than I've had my entire 35-year career over probably the last 6 months or so. So I'm very thankful for that, and I always try to push that information to the officers at the station as well. Anytime you see an opportunity that presents itself that whether it's something citizens vote on or what have you that has to do with police equipment, whether it be vehicles or whether it be sky towers or other police-related equipment that for some reason is put out to a vote for the public, and or if it's just a city council thing, contact your city council members, let them know how you feel, so they know how to represent you when it comes time for them to vote. And then also, and I would encourage you to always vote in favor of those things, because we're pretty judicious about what we ask for, because we know that there's always budgetary issues we've got to be concerned with. The police department makes up the biggest part of the budget throughout the entire city, over 60% of it. Well, essentially, public safety does. It includes us and the fire. But anytime you see there's something to vote on that's in favor of public safety, please do so, because I can promise you there's been a lot of forethought that's been given to that, and we wouldn't ask for it if we didn't need it. So again, everybody, thank y'all very much, and if you have any closing comments or that you need to make, anything, Mark?
I just wanted to thank Lake Highlands Baptist Church for hosting us today, and they've always been good to us. Thomas for taking our meeting minutes. To our guests, thank you guys for taking time to come out here. I know you're probably losing some sleep right now. You've been catching up on some rest. And to Mark Clayton and Gloria for